To Cameron, please.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning, all. Hannah, if I can come to you first, then Colin and Philippa. You've all said that you support a continuation of a licence fee as the main way to fund the BBC. But the licence fee is a relic of a time when viewers had 5 channels to choose from, and now seemingly the choice is infinite. So why should citizens pay for the BBC?
I can go first.
Yes, please.
So I'd start from the premise of the universality principle of the BBC. So something that means that it belongs to all of us, and we need to be thinking about how people can access, use, but also govern ideally the BBC. And so we need to be thinking about where people are seeing the BBC, not just in its owned environments, but also where that content is having an impact on the public good. So recognising the greater threats that we as a society face, whether that's foreign interference in the geopolitical and also the kind of polarised environment that we're in, especially when you're looking at our information environment in particular. But when you're also thinking about and I would say technological threats, so the extent to which our information environment is currently a hostile environment for public service media, we need to be thinking about how we invest in an information environment that really reflects or includes information infrastructure that reflects our values and our needs. So information infrastructure that provides a critical backstop in these very polarised and also technologically undermined times. And I think if you are recognising that it is therefore contributing to a public good in terms of providing an informed citizenry, something that is facilitating and as a result upgrading our democratic health, you therefore see it as something that you contribute to in the same way that you do with our education system or our NHS. But if I can just draw out a particular detail, one thing that I don't think we've talked enough about yet is investment in technological infrastructure. So I think rather than just seeing the BBC as something that you only benefit from if you yourself are receiving content, or rather that somebody else is consuming that content, it's also the infrastructure that underpins our information environment. So if the funding can also be spent on building up our technological infrastructure that is also in the public interest, that benefits not just the BBC but the public service media ecosystem overall, then people are also getting benefits from it. So it's seeing it in that whole holistic sense of it being a public good, a critical information backstop, but also something that contributes to our information environment in a number of different ways.
You said that it belongs to all of us. Mm-hmm. And you spoke of threats within the polarised society that we live in, but not everybody wants to own the BBC. How do you convince them?
That they should own the BBC?
That they should have a stake in the BBC, that it's worth saving?
So I think key routes to demonstrating that they should have a stake is firstly by demonstrating its independence and its separation from the kind of politics, both...
The value of its independence.
The value of it. So I think you do demonstrate the value of it, firstly through all the different ways in which it's contributing right now. I think there's a combination of education and awareness and media literacy that helps people understand what the role of public service media and in particular the contribution that BBC is making. I don't think we do by far and away enough to help people understand the role that it plays, but also the way that it is funded and why it is funded in that way. I think at the moment we have a knowledge gap over how it works and how it's operated, but I think that's combined with the fact that people at the moment don't perceive it to be sufficiently independent, and I think you need to therefore combine it with significant steps to be reinforcing that independence, and through all the things that we've talked about from constitutional and governance reform as well as that citizens panel. So it's that combination of factors that I think people need to be reassured by to understand its independence and therefore see that it does serve them.
Thanks, Hannah. Colin?
I would agree with just about all of that. I think there was some research recently which showed that when people were asked what was important, what they'd like to see from the BBC, independence was top of the list. Something like 94% of people said that, but a much smaller number, only about 30 to 40%, actually thought it was independent.
Right.
They assumed it was broadly told by government what to do.
How do you bridge that gap?
Well, like the kind of things we've been talking about, I think much more stakeholder engagement, much more transparency in the way the decisions are taken, and in particular the stuff I talked about right at the beginning, that the government should no longer make the appointments to the BBC board. There needs to be an independent panel going through a transparent process that actually makes those recommendations. and there has to be an extremely good reason for its recommendations not to be accepted. I think that would really underline the importance of independence. Just one thing, if I may pick on, you said we all believe in the licence fee. We're not sure whether the licence fee as currently constituted is correct. We would favour going to some form of universal licence fee, like the kind of, I hate to use the word levy, but like the kind of household levy that you have in Germany and other European countries. Because at the moment we know a lot of people are accessing and using the BBC services and aren't paying for them. It's becoming increasingly difficult for the licensing people to actually follow up on that. And if you had a more universal payment, if you got it up to say 94, 95% of people actually, of households paying, you could probably reduce the licence fee a little as a kind of incentive. Because the extra revenue you'd get moving from the current, it's about 80%, I think, 20% avoidance, moving up from that 80% to 94, 95%, will bring in quite a bit more revenue. And in order to reward people, you could have a commitment to hold the licence fee at the same level for a while, or perhaps have some kind of reduction.
Thanks, Colin. Philippa?
I pretty much agree with what Colin's saying. I think we've got to bridge the gap between those who pay the license, the number of people who pay the licence fee, and those who consume BBC content. And I think maybe the TV licence name needs to be updated, because certainly my kids would argue about, that having to pay for a TV licence.
Like the brand's toxic. The licence fee brand is toxic.
Yeah, but I pretty much agree about the idea of a household levy, so that we can extend.
How would you, when you say household levy, do you mean like a universal licence fee, or do you mean rolling the BBC licence fee into general taxation?
No, I mean.
You mean an actual universal levy, but you wouldn't necessarily call it the licence fee, or you would?
I wouldn't necessarily.
I
wouldn't necessarily call it.
One could come up with a different word, perhaps, but I think what you do is more important than what it's called.
Sorry, Philippa, can you finish making your point? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I think maybe the name, the TV licence fee, doesn't. I don't know. Isn't realistic in 2026. So I think, as I said, my kids wouldn't necessarily recognise the need to buy a TV licence fee, because they don't consume their content on a TV, probably.
Thank you. One more. Philippa, you stated in response to my colleague that in times of diminishing productivity, inevitably underrepresented groups are affected. If the BBC was to shrink owing to financial pressure, what other risks does that present to the universal service? What are the other so whats?
Well, I mean, absolutely massive. I suspect that in terms of the 10% cuts that the BBC is about to face, that there will be real and significant consequences. We've certainly said that it cannot afford any more salami slicing, just cutting rolls out without stopping doing things. So I think it's hugely problematic. I think sustainable funding is the most important challenge, obviously, facing the BBC going forward. And it's, as others have said, it's important for all sorts of reasons, for our democracy, for the creative industries more generally.
Thank you. Colin, same question to you. What are the so whats of the BBC shrinking owing to financial?
Two things. I think that absolutely what Philippa was saying, and that it'll be more salami slicing. But secondly, it means the opportunity to do the kind of stuff we've been talking about, and the kind of stuff that Stephen was talking about, will be missed. As I think I said, we just need to recognise, I believe, how important the BBC can be for the UK going forward, and actually recognise that soft power isn't just about the world service. Soft power is spreading the UK's culture, spreading the things that we're good at, making that known around the world and to ourselves. There is a lot that can be done. And at the moment, the BBC is having to constantly grapple with the question, what can't we do, what can we stop, rather than being given the opportunity to talk about what could we do for the UK going forward.
Thank you. Hannah, Philippa and Colin have spoken to the so whats. Who suffers, ultimately? Who loses out?
We all lose out collectively as a society. It's something that, because it benefits so much to our societal values, our societal norms, the level of the quality of our debate as a democracy. It affects us collectively in that way. But I think in terms of also who is losing out, we also have to think about that. I describe it as information inequality in this country, because we have so much good quality information which is moving behind the paywall. People are accessing their information through social media or increasing that through video sharing platforms, and we know the quality of that information is significantly lower. These are platforms which have reduced their referrals to news publishers and public service broadcasting systematically over the last 5 years. So if we know that people are increasingly using these platforms to constitute their information diet, and we know that that is where misinformation is significant, the quality of the information is poorer, we are making our country and our society informationally poorer. We are increasing information inequality.
People share Times articles with me, and it's behind a paywall.
Exactly.
So I can't see it. The BBC, not a problem.
Exactly. So it's an information equality issue, and I think there is significant data that shows that the stuff that's behind a paywall, people hit it. I think it's over 80% of people won't click through. So why are we making information which should be a public good and something which is so important to our democracy, something that is prohibitively expensive? So I think, unfortunately, it harms most impoverished.
Thank you very much. Thanks.